Today, on episode 87 of Insects for Fun, we're going to tackle centipedes, which was a listener request made by Ruth. In a previous episode, I talked about house centipedes, but that's just one small part of a larger picture. And to be honest, those aren't really what most people think of when they hear the word centipede. But first, we had a question asked on Spotify about how easy it is to bring back native species. Well, that really comes down to how vulnerable the species is and what the root cause for its disappearance was. There are many projects focused on breeding and reintroducing animals that were once abundant to an area, but these efforts also usually require something else to be taken away, like invasive species or urban development. The good news is that usually with time and a lot of effort, we can reintroduce and stabilize populations of animals that left an area for one reason or another. Insects in particular tend to be hardier than others and reproduce pretty quickly. Now, if you're just looking to increase native species in an urban area that's lacking, you need to start with the propagation of native plants, work from the ground up, and focus on providing a lot of native vegetation. Soon enough, you'll find more and more native fauna visiting areas where they previously weren't. Okay, now let's get back to centipedes. Centipedes got their name because of the large number of legs they have. Centi is Neo-Latin for 100, and pes or pedes is Latin for foot. I'm not a language expert though, and the Latin for foot is kind of confusing both in terms of pronunciation and difference between pes or pedes. Anyway, that doesn't matter too much. What does matter is that centipedes do not have 100 pairs of legs. They actually always have an odd number, with pairs ranging from 19 to 191. Another shared trait for centipedes is that they are all venomous, so definitely don't make them angry. The total number of species discovered is hovering around 3,500, but as we all know by now, you really can't be too confident in species numbers of arthropods. The estimated number of species in existence, for example, is believed to be around 8,000. Centipedes belong to a class called Chilopoda, of which there are only 5 orders. Insects, or the Insecta class, on the other hand, has 30 orders, and so many of them look very, very different from each other, unlike Chilopoda. This isn't to say that the 5 orders of Chilopoda aren't unique from each other, but certainly not to the same extent as insects. And here's why. Every order of centipede has the same general body plan, which is a long, flat, heavily segmented body, an armored head, pair of small mandibles, pair of segmented antennae, and 2 pairs of maxillae, which are the small food-tasting appendages near their mandibles. Some of the unique features to all centipedes that separate them from other arthropods are their forcipules and ultimate legs. Yes, you heard that right. Ultimate legs are the last 2 legs on a centipede's body that are longer than all the others. The use for these is dependent on the species, but it can vary from mating rituals and communication to defending against predators. Another fun thing they can use these for is to hang or cling to objects like tree branches. Think of them hanging in trees like a spider monkey dangling with its tail. Here's a fun fact. Malaysian centipedes are known to stalk prey in trees like geckos and frogs. And some centipedes, like the Phillip Island centipede, Cormocephalus coine, are known to prey on baby birds. And that's not uncommon. In fact, a study was published stating that these monstrous centipedes are responsible for the deaths and consumption of up to 3,700 seabird chicks every year. They're the #1 predator on this island and even stalk and eat fish. How can they stalk and eat fish, you might be asking? Well, centipedes are known to swim, and there's even an aquatic species called Scolopendra cataracta, which can reach a length of 20 centimeters. This aquatic one is found in Southeast Asia and can not only swim like an eel, but is also able to run along stream beds and hide under rocks on the bottom. Its getaway is underwater, as opposed to hiding under dirt and stones, and it makes me wonder if the Phillips Island centipede is capable of doing the same thing. Phillips Island is a popular day trip from Melbourne, Australia, by the way, so my Australian listeners might have actually seen these before. Now, speaking of centipedes in water, unlike other arthropods like insects and spiders, these animals don't have a waxy coat, and thus can dry out pretty easily. This is why they need to be in a moist environment, and why many of them find refuge in damp caves, underground, leaf litter, or rocks in more arid climates. When it comes to communication between centipedes, they rely on their antennae and ultimate legs, because their eyesight isn't all that great. Some species, particularly in the genus Scolopendra, have been recorded to grab other centipedes with their ultimate legs and hold this position for up to 30 minutes. It's a reciprocated gesture, which is believed to possibly de-escalate aggression, but it might hold other meanings as well. Turns out the ultimate legs aren't just good for touch, but they also hold chemoreceptors and act as secondary antennae. This would explain why they're used when contacting other centipedes and in courtship behaviors. Many centipedes engage in courtship by first tapping each other's ultimate legs with their antennae. Now, aside from these incredibly handy hind legs, the other special modification to centipedes are their forcipules. These are very short, modified front legs that form pincers and are used for injecting venom into their prey. They're basically fangs, and they hurt a lot, at least from the larger tropical centipedes in the order Scolopendromorpha. I'm sure many people are wondering how to know if a centipede is dangerous or not, so I'm going to walk us through that now. Essentially, you can't tell how venomous a centipede is by its color, but you can tell how painful the bite will be based on its size. The 3 most painful and dangerous centipedes are all at least 6 inches in length, with the most venomous believed to be Scolopendra gigantea, which grows up to 30 centimeters long or longer. This species lives in South America and the Caribbean. It gets crazier though, because this centipede hunts and eats bats. Now, I say it's believed to be the most venomous because no one has actually tested the potency, but going off of its size and main prey source, it's safe to say that its venom works well on mammals. The next most venomous centipede, which has been studied, is the Chinese red-headed centipede, Scolopendra mutilans, which grows up to 25 centimeters and is found throughout East Asia. It was formerly a subspecies to Scolopendra subspinipes, which is a large and common centipede found throughout Southeast Asia. The reason this one is ranked number 2 is because it contains a special peptide that exacerbates the bite wound in mammals and also causes paralysis by targeting the nervous system. It's no wonder so many people go to the hospital from their bites, even if they aren't allergic. Number 3, or the second place most dangerous, would be Scolopendra subspinipes, which is commonly known as the Malaysian cherry centipede or the Malaysian jewel centipede, and is infamous in the Hawaiian Islands, where you can often find them running around or in trees. They won't kill you unless you're allergic, but they definitely pack a punch. The lesson here is to never mess with a large centipede, and that every centipede is venomous regardless of size. So if you get bit, it's gonna hurt a bit. The question then becomes whether or not centipedes are aggressive. Well, they aren't going to chase you down the street, especially not the smaller ones. In general, most centipedes are quite shy, and they try to avoid humans. Even the Malaysian centipede or the Chinese red-headed centipede aren't particularly aggressive, which is good. They'll only strike when threatened, and I've known people that have woken up with them in their beds without a bite. If you roll over on one though, then good luck because they don't like being crushed. Another good thing about them is that they aren't territorial. But a general trend with centipedes is that they are solitary predators and don't enjoy the company of others unless looking for a mate. Mating behavior varies, but most centipedes don't engage in direct intercourse. The males will create a silken pad where they drop a spermatophore, and the female has to pick it up and store it for fertilization. There are some centipedes that directly deposit this into females, and they typically belong to the family Scolopendridae. Maternal care is known for many centipedes, but is not a given. It depends on the species really, but larger centipedes seem to clutch their eggs and continue to hold on to them, groom them, and watch over them until they've all hatched. And even then, the mothers will still provide this level of care until the centipedes are old enough to venture out on their own. Centipedes don't go through any forms of metamorphosis like insects, but they do molt to grow, and they can actually regrow legs in the process. Some centipedes, like katydids, will self-amputate if in danger, but unlike the katydid, the centipede can slowly get those legs back. Some centipedes, like the soil centipedes and tropical centipedes, are born with all their legs, while others, like the stone centipedes and house centipedes, continue to grow more legs up until they're sexually mature. The lifespan for a centipede is generally longer than an insect, with many of them living between 5 and 10 years. A lot of people like to keep them as pets too, and you can find them being sold at reptile exhibitions in the United States. Some will even handle their pet centipedes, even though it's not exactly recommended. The older the centipede, the more mild-tempered it becomes though, so maybe handling becomes easier with age. I don't have experience with them personally, and I don't really plan to either, but maybe some of you guys do. And that's gonna wrap up this episode. As always, make sure to rate and review the show on whatever platform you listen, and go hit up those socials. Be sure to check out the Patreon as well for bonus episodes, ad-free episodes, vlogs, and more. Our latest bonus episode covers an array of interesting topics, like the composition of UV light, and how cannabinoids in hemp plants might actually be insect repellents and studied for insect repellent effects in the future. Thanks again for listening.